dog-like Pokemon have to be some of the best Pokemon in the entire franchise. Like, just look at Growlithe or Yamper. These Pokemon are so cute and precious, and if you don't like them, I think there's something wrong with you. But not all of these mutts are made equally. There's actually a few of them I really despise. So I wanted to rank every single one of these canines to figure out who is the best boy. And who better to rank them than the guy whose YouTube mascot is a glorified corgi with horns. Now at first glance, I thought ranking these Pokemon would have been pretty easy, but I was actually really wrong. There are some major hurdles we have to get over before we can even rank a single Pokemon. The first issue I had, which may sound dumb, is what Pokemon are even considered dogs. Like, of course, Pokemon like Rockruff are really easy to classify as a dog, but other Pokemon like Lucario are technically dogs, they're just bipedal. So to make my life easier, I just decided to include every single canine. They're all entering the club. Also, the way I'm going to be ranking them is straight off of vibes and not competitively, but I'm sure there's another wolf-like YouTuber that can help you out with the VGC side of things. So with all that out the way, the dog in last place would have to be Mash Chief, and I kind of feel bad for the guy. This Pokemon didn't have a fighting chance. Its design just looks really awkward with its weird grin, making him look like he is always constipated, and they tried to make us like this Pokemon with its evolution having a pretty cool story in the Scarlet and Violet games, but it just wasn't enough to sell me on this design as a whole, considering this generation we got so many different dog Pokemon that are just way better. This kind of segues into the next dog Pokemon I really don't like, and the next few candidates are ones that I would seriously consider F tier, and that would have to be Nickit and Thevile. And I know a lot of you may be confused, like, hey, what is the fox Pokemon doing on a list about dogs? And I would have originally agreed with you, but when I was doing research for this video, I found out foxes are considered canines. Like, yeah, my entire life I generally thought they were more on the feline side of things, but no, they are considered a dog just as much as a wolf would be. So in turn, that means all the fox-like Pokemon like Thevile, Ninetales, and Eevee are all making it on this list, and Thevile just happens to be one of the worst foxes ever. It's almost like Game Freak didn't want us to like him. Like, yeah, his design looks kind of cool, I get, with the whole mask bandit type of thing, but from the competitive sides, his stats are so wacky. Like, he's meant to be this special attacking type of fox, but he only learns one special attacking dark type move in his entire kit, and I'm not really counting competitiveness into this factor, but I noticed it from just being a casual player. So far, the Pokemon that I listed I dislike, but they're not like bad Pokemon, but Snubbull is a Pokemon that I genuinely hate his design. I know some people think he's cute, but I just don't see it. I was originally going to put this Pokemon in last place, but then I remembered there was a Pokemon movie where Snubbull ended up dying in fire to save its trainer and give it a key, so I gave it some brownie points. It's not like Snubbull's evolution is same yet either, because I think it's just as bad. The final Pokemon I would have to put in the bad category for the dog Pokemon, since going forward I think the rest of them are really precious and great, would have to be Lycanroc, specifically the night form of this Pokemon. For most of this list, I like to group Pokemon together under one umbrella, but with Lycanroc I had to make an exception because the difference between the night, dusk, and day form of Lycanroc is just so blatant. I'm someone that clearly loves canine Pokemon, so when I first saw Rockruff when Sun and Moon was coming out, I was like, hey, he's gonna evolve into a really cool Pokemon. And when I saw it evolve into the normal form of Lycanroc, it looked pretty acceptable and passable. The dusk form looked amazing, but then the night form just looks like this awkward werewolf version of him just trying to be edgy. Like, hey, there clearly was a target audience with this Pokemon, and if you enjoyed the night form of Lycanroc, more power to you. But I am just not that target audience. I feel like if they were going to go in a werewolf direction, it should look more feral and less of this like half scary bipedal monster. The next few dog Pokemon that I will consider like just okay would be Slurpuff, Furfu, Elekid, Smeargle, and there's one more hidden one in the mid category, but I can't talk about him yet because I'll spoil a future pick. But these Pokemon, they don't scream anything crazy to me. Slurpuff has the most unique design out of all of them, trying to push the boundaries of like this cotton candy mini dog, which is pretty cute. I like what they were doing with Furfu in the early Kalos region, trying to give him a bunch of hairstyle designs. Elekid, when it's a small puppy, is pretty nice, and when it evolves, it's pretty cool too, but its Mega Evolution is just so awkward to me, where it deterred a bunch of points, actually making it a worse Pokemon for me. I literally liked them more before I knew their Mega Evolution existed. Smeargle is strictly here because it has terrorized me so much through the X and Y days, since I never know what move this Pokemon's going to have, and Dark Void Smeargle is not fun. In the B tier category, I would have to put Zamazenta. I think its design is actually extremely awkward. With its big shield around it, it kind of feels like someone wearing a suit that is too big for them. Now, you may be thinking, do I include Zacian in this tier? And no, Zacian is a completely completely different Pokemon, and we will talk more about him later. Houndoom and Mightyena are kind of interchangeable for me. They both achieve the same thing, being really great early dog Pokemon you can pick up in the Hoenn region, and they both have good final evolutions. Granted, they did show Houndoom some favoritism since they gave him a Mega Evolution and Mightyena got like nothing, but these are good Pokemon I don't mind using whenever I find them throughout my playthroughs. Another solid dog Pokemon from the 5th generation would be Stoutland. Its first form evolution is so cute, and it's a 3-stage, which always helps it in my book, and it actually had a super sad backstory in the Pokemon anime, being Liden's mentor and dying. Stoutland's story in the anime legitimately made me tear up, but I made a whole video on it, so check it out. And also, I do know his name is Stoutland, not Scoutland. I mispronounced his name a bunch in this video, and I'm sorry for that. The next Pokemon is Fido, and when it got revealed, it looks so cute. I love the concept of this dog that is like a pastry sweet thing, and its evolution is also amazing too. This also may be a bit biased, but I love the fact that this dog is a fairy type as well. It's just so whimsical and perfect for this mon. With all that being said, we are now in the top half of the tier list. These are the top 10 dogs that I think are the best in the entire franchise. So to start off the A tier, I would have to put Houndstone. Initially, this Pokemon's design is pretty cool. It's an undead ghost type of dog that was introduced in the Paldea region, where we got a bunch of dogs, and this one I think is the best one to come out of it. The reason honestly why I placed it so high besides its design is because of its signature move, Last Resort. It's a move that just gets more powerful with the more Pokemon that faint during a battle, and it is just so fun to use. Fennekin and Delphox will be joining them in the A tier since they are canines, and they're pretty cool. I love the concept of a Firefox mage using their wand to cast spells, and if Greninja wasn't introduced in this region, taking up all the spotlight, I'm sure that it would get a lot more love. The last Pokemon I have to put in the A tier would be Rockruff and Lycanroc. This Pokemon is so amazing because you can get it pretty early in the Alola region, and it evolves into a pretty strong rock-type Pokemon. The midday form of Lycanroc also looks great and a lot better than its ugly brother counterpart. And I know I just said this Pokemon is in the A tier, but its Dusk form alone is in the S tier. I have to separate the two. This Pokemon had such an amazing arc within the Pokemon anime, literally having a Sharingan going crazy and having to surpass its limits. Lycanroc was literally the ace of Ash's team and was the Pokemon that made him win the Alola League. So there's no way I could disrespect Lycanroc Dusk form without putting it in the S tier. The next Pokemon in the S tier category would have to be Lucario and Riolu. What else has to be said about these Pokemon? They're basically the mascot of Generation 4, being one of the most recognizable Pokemon. Its Mega Evolution is pretty cool, and it's a Pokemon on Ash's final team, so it gets more bonus points. The next Pokemon I would put in the S tier is Zoroark and Zoroark. They have to be some of the best Generation 5 Pokemon ever. When I first saw these Pokemon, I originally thought they were legendary since they had a whole movie based around them, and I just love the concept of a fox that can transform into any Pokemon. Then they decided to make this Pokemon even cooler in Legends Arceus by making it the first normal ghost type Pokemon, and its lore is super cool where Hisuian Zorora and Zoroark exist because they died. And because we're on the topic of foxes, I have to talk about Ninetales. Ninetales and Vulpix are legitimately amazing. From these Pokemon having such a slick design to Ninetales being one of the first modern shiny Pokemon I've ever caught, on top of the fact that its Alolan form has to be one of the best regional variants of all time. With this Pokemon becoming a majestic ice type, I really don't see a reason to ever hate on this Pokemon. It is one of the most well-designed ones of all time. I would even argue that Ninetales is the best fox Pokemon if Eevee didn't exist, because Eevee is in 4th place. Eevee is one of the most beloved Pokemon of all time. It's like a vanilla answer when you ask somebody who their favorite Pokemon is, and there's a reason why. This Pokemon can legitimately evolve into so many different type of Pokemon that there's a good fit for everybody. Over the years, Eevee managed to work its way up the food chain to become a pseudo mascot for the Pokemon franchise, literally getting its own cover for a video game. And the only thing this Pokemon is missing, in my opinion, is just getting more evolutions. Like, we need a dragon type evolution. But with all that being said, we are finally in the top 3. And before I can get into them, there is one honorable mention. This is a Pokemon so rare that nobody saw him coming, and it is Zolt. It's rumored that this Pokemon only knows one move called subscribe. So hey, maybe you could hit the subscribe button to make this Pokemon happy. Or I don't know, maybe you like seeing Pokemon sad. But the actual S tier dog Pokemon in 3rd place is Growlithe and Arcanine. These Pokemon are so cool. Being one of the original dog Pokemon, they walk so everybody else could run. Arcanine was so cool back in the day, there were a bunch of theories that it was even meant to be an original legendary Pokemon. And honestly, it would have been pretty cool if Arcanine became a legendary. Growlithe is also amazing because in the Pokemon anime, James has a pretty sad backstory with his Growlithe, which I love a lot. And overall, these designs are just perfect. And speaking of perfect design, designs, the Pokemon in second place has to be Yamper. When this Pokemon got revealed in Gen 8 that it was going to be an electric-type Corgi Pokemon, I was amazed. This Pokemon was made for me. It also felt like the Pokemon Company knew this too, because they were really trying to push Yamper as a pseudo-mascot, and he kind of is. He sells a lot of plushies, but I have one major gripe with this Pokemon, which is why it is not in first place, and that is his evolution, Bolthound, who I legitimately think is D tier. Like, yeah, there's not a lot you can do with dog evolutions besides making them a bigger dog, but Bolthound just seems so bland. Seems that everyone, including myself, disregarded this Pokemon because he barely has any plushies, nobody talks about him, and we all just talk about Yamper. This Pokemon generally feels like a middle stage evolution, so maybe they could bless Yamper by giving Bolthound another evolution to make it cooler. Even with all that, Yamper is still peak, but he is not the best dog in the Galar region, because in first place, it would have to go to Zacian. This Pokemon is so cool. It is a badass wolf with a sword in its mouth, which is a box art legendary. This is peak. I know I also mentioned competitiveness doesn't matter that much, but Zacian is legitimately so powerful too. It is a bonus. A fairy steel type Pokemon, which is a broken type combination, along with the fact it has legendary stats, it has a broken signature move, just feels nice to have a strong dog-like Pokemon, because a lot of the times they're just cute but not strong. The main reason why I also put Zacian in first place is because he's in Pokemon Unite and he has pretty cool skins, and I love playing him in the game, so I know that's a dumb reason, but who can hate on a dog in a tuxedo suit? Like, this guy is precious. And that's all the dog Pokemon, I think. So maybe next time I should rank all the cat Pokemon, so like the video and comment it so I know you actually want it. And click one of the two videos on your screen, either talking about Lycanroc's story or Incineroar, since these videos are bangers. I will see you guys all next time.